afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. According to my clock, it is 12 o'clock. We know, as in the past, that we have a few of latecomers coming into, slowly strolling into the online digital room. So we'll allow the team to just let them in. In the interim, while we're doing that as well, just to say welcome. And also, this is the last of the 4 webinars we had this year. Can't believe it's November already. And I suppose it is true what they say in the classics, that time flies when you're having fun. So we must have had a lot of fun this year, because time did definitely fly quite quickly. And this year, you may recall that we really focused on the theme of purpose and the business case of purpose. It was also the theme at the FluidRock conference in August. And it is something that we, as the FluidRock team, very, very strongly believe in as the foundation of governance as well. And considering that we, as the FluidRock team, get up every morning because we want to live in a society that's fueled by ethical and well-governed corporate citizens. Therefore, it should not be a surprise that we wanted to really highlight and emphasize the importance of this topic on purpose and what it entails. And today we really very fortunate and honored to be also joined by eHealth Africa, who lives their purpose, and Atef is going to tell us a little bit more about how they do it and the difference they make on this continent in an extremely important industry. And we're going to hear from him. I think Atef is currently in Dubai and joining us from Dubai, so we really thank him. Otto, his colleague, was also going to be joining us this morning, and it seems like the air forces, or what shall I call it, the airline guards, are not working in her favor, as was our conference when she was prevented from joining us in time for the conference for her address. Unfortunately, her flight schedules have resulted in her being in the air as we speak. But Dave, thank you so much for your willingness, also traveling, by joining us from Dubai today. All right, so I think without further ado, I'm going to just set the scene for us and just talk a little bit on just reminding our audience. Some of you may have heard us talk about this before, but as we wrap up this year, 2024, and this particular theme and topic, let's just kind of remind ourselves on some of the key aspects around business purpose and why it matters. Now, I don't think talking about business purpose that we are, or let me put it this way, I do think we're in good company. We're not alone in talking about it. And it's also not just a recent kind of all of a sudden theme that has come up. It has been this whole idea and concept about the importance of business purpose and mission has been around for many years, and you only need to look at some of the material done by Peter Drucker. Now, Peter Drucker passed away, I think, about 19 years ago at the age of 95. So you got back to the 60s and the 70s, and you've read Peter Drucker's material on, management and on business and on organizational success. You will see this topic of purpose featuring quite strongly. And to the point that he actually made the observation that, in his opinion, it is because we don't give adequate time and attention to our mission, to our purpose as a business, that is probably one of the key dynamics, the root causes for not only frustration in business, but also the failure of business. And now in today's life, you have the Larry Finks of this world. Now, BlackRock, I think, currently holds the honor of being the largest global institutional investor, with hundreds of trillions of US dollars under their management. And Larry, some of you may know, has become quite well known for challenging the boards of companies on a number of sustainability related aspects, going so far as voting against the re-election of directors where they feel that a board, for example, did not pay sufficient attention, did not give sufficient attention to climate change as one issue, but many others as well. So much to my kind of surprise, because of my skepticism when it comes to institutional investors, BlackRock seem to be putting their money where their mouth is on wanting to drive long-term sustainability in businesses rather than getting a short-term quick return on their investments. And as part of that, in his address to CEOs, Larry talks about the need for businesses to really focus and bring their purpose in line also with their stakeholders and in their relationship with their stakeholders. Often when we talk about governance, when we talk about things, aspects of governance such as purpose, and just yesterday again, I was in a meeting with a client, a fairly large private business, private company, and because of the size, now had to put together a social and ethics committee. Atef, for your purposes or for your benefit here in South Africa, it's a legislative requirement for certain companies to have what we call a social and ethics committee, depending on the size of the business. And the Social and Ethics Committee has quite a broad mandate of items need to look at. And I had the conversation again around, but we do this, in any event, all the stuff. We don't really need to formalize, and this is quite frustrating having to comply with the law, etc. And governance is really nice to have in all of those conversations, and also the cost, and this is stifling business. You're killing our entrepreneurial spirit, and so I don't know about our audience, but I often get confronted and challenged with the fact that, we need to make profit, and kind of suggesting that the topics we bring to the table have got, work against profit and success of organizations. And even our long-standing, management guru, Peter Drucker, recognized this. And he made the point, and we all agree, I'm completely in line with Peter when he says that profit for a company is like oxygen for a person. And so, in other words, if you don't have enough of it, as he says, puts it, you're out of the game. But if you think that life is about breathing only, then you're really missing something. So really making the point that business is about more than just the single bottom line, more than just making profit. And that's why it's probably also not surprising that a global standard like ISO brought purpose as its primary principle, as the foundation on which you build the governance of organizations. Slightly different from our King 4 report in South Africa, in that I don't believe we gave purpose that much airtime in King 4. And that will probably be something that will be elevated when we have a next version of the King report. But purpose being at the heart of everything we do. And that's just kind of, for me, that's kind of common sense, that a strong sense of purpose should permeate every facet of our business. From our strategy development, our daily operations. It's our compass. It's kind of our North Star to make sure that you've got alignment with everything that we do. And because that alignment is what we need to get consistency, to get coherence, and it's crucial for maintaining the integrity of our organization, to build trust, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on as well. If we really, in our organization, want to build an authentic brand, an identity and reputation, that core of purpose is absolutely, absolutely critical. The way ISO 37000 kind of explains it, this is what they say. the responsibility of the leadership of an organization is to ensure, to sit down and really clarify for themselves as well, why do we exist? What is our purpose? Why do we, as an organization, why are we here? What do we want to see? Where do we want to go? And specifically in a way that clearly explains to its stakeholders how it sees itself in relation to the natural environment, society, and all of its stakeholders. So there's a lot of guidance, and we don't have the time today to go into that, but quite a lot of guidance around purpose in ISO 37000. You may or may not know that FluidRock has a digital online training on ISO 37000. We also now have 37004, which is the maturity framework for companies. And if you've not come across this, I really want to encourage you to go look at the FluidRock Academy website, because we really need to get this message. We need to preach the gospel of purpose. And in order to do that, we need to know ourselves as governance professionals, what that means. You may recall, some of you that have journeyed this year with us, that in the beginning of the year, I think it was in our April webinar, that Dr. Victoria Hurst came to talk about purpose, and kind of she started off by explaining the whole unsustainable world that we live in, and the approach of businesses to it, and what the cause of it was. And she kind of gave 3 different scenarios, which she called logic 1, logic 2, and logic 3. And her argument, her theory being that logic 3, this kind of, pyramid of where we're not only driven by short-term self-interest or even long-term self-interest, but that we're actually driven by purpose. And now, for some reason, I see that my slide decided to drop my description at the top of my triangle, thanks to technology. But let me remind you, the top of the pyramid is logic 3, which is the purpose of our organization and how that talks to all of the stakeholders. So it's not just business as usual. It's really being driven by the purpose. And there it comes up. So maybe I should have just a click away. The long-term well-being for all people and planet, which is called sustainable development. There's lots of jargon labels being put to this, but it's really around how do we show up as a responsible corporate citizen and ensure sustainable development using those resources in a way that future generations can have, a reasonable prospect on success and use the same resources that we're currently using. So this is one other way of looking at purpose. And then I thought I also wanted to kind of, those who know me well will know that I love to refer to books. And one of the books that, whether you want to hear it or not, I do talk about quite a bit, and I really encourage people to read, is the book, How Will You Measure Your Life? And the top of on the kind of label of the book says that the purpose of this book is really helping you to find fulfillment as an individual, but using lessons from the world's greatest businesses. It's an absolute MBA Harvard professor book. But at the end of the book, also the late Clayton Christensen talks about purpose. And specifically what he calls the 3 parts of purpose. Now, the one thing that he makes very strongly, a point that he makes very strongly, is that purpose isn't something that just happens. It just, it's not like it's just by accident that we come across it. The likeness, what he means with likeness, is that we really need to understand what would we like this company to look like when one day we come kind of at the end of the path that we are on with this business. It's not like, employees will excitedly discover at the end of their journey, oh, this company had a purpose. Rather, the likeness that he's talking about is what managers and leadership and employees hope that they will have actually built when they reach that critical milestone in their journey. So it really calls for intentional thinking. That's one. Secondly, he says what you need once you've got that picture of the likeness, what you're striving for, you need commitment. Because you need to be committed to that likeness that you're trying to create. Purpose can't begin and end on a piece of paper. It demands actions, it demands priorities, it calls for priorities, it needs really intentional, continuous, repetitive behavior for us to actually further that course and that purpose. And then, thirdly, he also says you can't have purpose without one or a few metrics that you can use to measure yourself against, to also determine your progress against your stated purpose as an organization. So these three parts, the likeness, the commitment, and the metrics, this is all the cornerstones of your purpose. And he makes the point, and let me just quote you what Clayton says. He says companies that aspire to positive impact must never leave their purpose to chance, because a worthy purpose rarely emerges inadvertently. The world is just too full of paradox and uncertainty to leave your purpose to fate. Purpose must be deliberately conceived and chosen and then pursued. And I think that's, one of the reasons we, from a governance perspective, talk about this, because it really speaks directly to the building and the building blocks of good governance, of sustainable businesses as well. Lots of benefits of a well-articulated purpose, and I've just listed a few for you with some kind of case studies around that. But staying true to a clearly articulated purpose can really set a business apart and enhances its legitimacy and its trust with its stakeholders. And we know that trust is absolutely a vital currency today in business, because it influences everything from customer loyalty, investor confidence, all aspects of your business. And it will also, if you do have that trust, should position you better to weather some of the storms that may come and the crises that, like, for example, COVID-19, what we saw happening in that period. Now, Patagonia, they say, is a good example. And let me just kind of interrupt myself here and make the point. None of these companies that I list here as examples will forever be great. And forever do everything well and forever just be growing and prospering. Life just doesn't work that way. And in my experience, what I've seen, that as much as we write all of these things up, if you don't have the right human beings, leadership in organizations pursuing these, for example, stated purposes, that purpose, in the reception on the wall becomes of very little benefit or value to organizations. So this particular point in time, some of those ones. So, another point I'm trying to make is kind of to already preempt people saying, well, some of the names on your slide have not, done so well in these areas. And true, this is not trying to say they will forever be shooting the lights out. They are also going to have their challenges, but one can hope that with that foundation of a strong purpose and the right people, human beings, the controlling mind of these organizations, that they will be able to weather that storm. So Patagonia is really renowned for its strong sense of purpose, which is centered around the environment and sustainability. And their mission statement is, we're in the business to save our home planet. So we know that they drive environmental causes, and they have a very loyal customer base and widespread acclaim because of that. People want to belong. Employees want to feel that they can align, that they feel part of something bigger. The majority of people want to kind of have that motivation of being part of something that is bigger than themselves. That is why I heard somebody earlier this year made the point that you will have highly intelligent, capable, competent people working in the non-profit sector, not at the salary levels of their counterparts in the for-profit, but they do it because they so strongly believe in the cause of what, and what they're part of. And so research has actually shown that purpose in organizations tend to actually result in lower employee turnover, high level of motivation, of job satisfaction. And if I have a motivated employee that feels connected to the broader mission of the company, you really have a winning recipe. Google has consistently ranked high in employee satisfaction and retention. Also have had some of their issues, but generally known for the fact that their employees feel very strongly and can strongly relate to the purpose of Google. Then you have clarity and focus, helping businesses also with that North Star to navigate complex and dynamic environments. And that strategic kind of clarity also ensures that our resources, our decisions, our actions are all allocated effectively. Unilever, their purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. And if you read the book from Paul Polman, the ex-CEO of Unilever, Net Positive, with the subheading, How Courageous Companies Thrive by Giving More Than They Take. And you can see how Unilever under his leadership managed to find business opportunities in some of the challenges, the sustainability challenges that they come across in societal issues that they come across all over the world. And I've seen, that it makes business sense to do good. And to do good is good for business as well, if I put it a different way. Competitive advantage and differentiation is key to if you want to stand out. Purpose-driven companies are often recognized as or seen as more visionary, more forward-thinking, and that in itself can attract today's kind of customers, investors, and partners who share those kind of similar value, and it inspires brand loyalty and advocacy. We've seen this with many of the brands. The Body Shop, with their purpose of enriching, not exploiting, was also a business that for a long time set itself apart from others because of the way they also being their purpose, the way they sourced, their supply chain, and a lot of that resonating with their customers and helping them to build a reputable brand. And then one final example, resilience and adaptability. Again, thinking of my first one around the COVID and the challenges that we've had. But purpose-driven organizations definitely tend to have more cohesive and, as we've said, motivated workforce, loyal customers, stronger stakeholder relationships, all of that which relates and contributes to greater resilience. So Johnson & Johnson being an example of that as well, a company of hundreds of years old as well. Their purpose, just for interest's sake, is to blend heart, science, and ingenuity to profoundly change the trajectory of health for humanity. So talking about health, talking about Johnson & Johnson, I think takes us to a good point in this discussion this hour. And I'll come back to this slide later on. But Atef, maybe at this point, let's hear from you. I will stop sharing as well so that you can share your slides. I have purposefully said to Atef, I'm not going to try and explain what he does. I'm going to leave that in his very capable hands, as well as what eHealth Africa does on this continent. Atef, once again, thank you for joining us from Dubai today. We really do appreciate it and look forward to listening to you as a case study on how to get it right and how to align purpose and business. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Can see your screen, yes?
Okay, so one, and I'll just take you through what we do, how we do it, and I'll try to be brief as possible. So my name is Fawaz. I'm the executive director of Africa. I have been with the organization for about 12 years. I joined the organization, and I was the third member to join after both co-founders. And our first project on polio eradication. Um, was on polio eradication, and from there we built a team from 3 people. We are now close to about 700 in terms of human resources over time. Our largest expansion was during Ebola, the Ebola outbreak, and then we resized back to what we are now. So I'll just take you on an overview, just so everyone understands what we do and why we do it. So eHealth Africa is a group of companies. One is the Public Health Not-for-Profit, founded in 2010, and that's the company I run. And then our sister companies are a private healthcare provider. It's a for-profit primary healthcare clinics operating currently in Nigeria. We have about 4 or 5 clinics, and they plan to add more every year. And then we have an impact investment, not-for-profit as well. The impact investment, which is EHA Impact Ventures, is focused on investing in women-led business as well. So that's a summary of our companies, and our unified mission is improving healthcare in Africa through improved public health programming, increased access to quality care, and increasing women's access to capital through impact investing. So eHealth Africa, we've started since 2012. We have partnered almost all our projects are in partnerships with government and non-governmental organizations on the continent to improve health systems through the design of data-driven solutions. Our focus areas currently are public health emergency, disease prevention and monitoring, lab systems and diagnostics, climate adaptation and health, food security, and nutrition. We currently have presence in more than 19 African countries, but our permanent presence is in Nigeria. We have two main offices, one in Abuja, which is the capital, another one is in Kano State, that's the northwest, and a smaller operational office in Maiduguri, which is in Borno, and about 9 emergency operation centers over Nigeria. So we implement projects all over the region. We use a very agile approach to implementing our projects. So we don't really have a full setup in those countries, but we have the ability to quickly scale up, deploy teams in any country, execute the project and come back to Nigeria. And those are mostly short-term projects. When we have a large, long-term project, then we'd have a different approach where we set up an operational office and we go through the whole process of having a country office. So our program areas, as I mentioned them earlier, and I'll just focus more on the competency areas, which is global health informatics, public health infrastructure, supply chain and logistics, and implementation research. Our cross-cutting drivers of excellence are the gender equity and social inclusion, knowledge management, continuous quality improvement, innovations and insights using human-centered design, public-private partnerships, impact and monitoring. All the work we do, everything we try to do at eHealth Africa, we make sure we cover specifically those drivers of excellence. Specifically on gender equity, it's something that we have on our radar. We are not yet where we want to be. We are currently at about 31% or above 31% women workforce. We look to have gender parity by 2026, 2027. And we are working on different strategies to figure this out, especially on the continent, and especially in a country like Nigeria, where there's a lot of cultural limitations and security issues that makes this difficult for us. But it's something that we have as a priority, and we will keep pushing until we have that. Another thing that you will always also see a lot in our projects is innovation and impact. So everything we try to do, we make sure we have the innovation piece included in our projects, and focus on impact. So all the question is always, what's the impact? So some of our achievements over the last decade, I won't go through all of them for the sake of time. I'll highlight some of the some of those. So as I mentioned, we started in 2010. I joined the organization in 2012 on our first polio project. We mapped 11 northern states in Nigeria for immunization campaign microplanning. And when I mentioned mapping, those were 11 states with a population of about, I would say 70, 80 million, and had no maps. All maps were hand-drawn. So we leveraged a lot on technology to digitize and redo all the mapping for the states down to settlement levels. That was a huge accomplishment for us and for those states. We worked in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone to support the Ebola outbreak response in 2014. We have delivered direct delivery. One of our projects is vaccine direct delivery, and we have been able to deliver 1.1 million vaccines in 2014, and those projects are still ongoing. Then I would focus as well more on the mapping on the rest of the country. So because of the success we had in mapping the 11 northern states, we were asked through the Grid 3 project, to execute the largest mapping project in Nigeria to date, which was mapping the whole country, a country of almost 200 million people with all point of interest. So that was a mix of sending data collectors to the field, using images from different agencies, including agencies like the space agencies of Nigeria, the NASA, some EU space agencies as well, and that also included us working with satellite providers to produce new images for areas that were not covered. So and the reason I'm mentioning this is just for everyone to understand how we try to bring innovation and leverage on technology to execute our projects. And the impact of mapping is beyond what we could imagine, because the way the maps were done, they were all hand-drawn. No one knew where their boundaries are. No one knew what villages were, and what even the settlement names or the villages names were actually, in terms of the formalizing the name. So the government would have a specific name for the area, but then the local had a different name. So this did not help the vaccination campaigns. So it was very critical for us to get this done properly, to be able to execute a successful vaccination campaign. And this was always an issue in the past, where the population estimates were all wrong, and there was a lot of waste and under immunized children. Then I'll go to the next slide, which is also further impact numbers. We have so far been directly involved in having more than 3 million children vaccinated, either through direct delivery or through different programs. In Sierra Leone, Sierra Leone became the first country in the WHO Afro region to transition to a completely electronic disease surveillance reporting system using EIDSR, which is a project also we implemented there. And we have also, which is an interesting thing we keep track of every year, we have continuously been earning the Best Place to Work certification in Nigeria from 2022, including this year as well. And to move more to some of the digital solutions we developed our own in-house logistics management system solution in 2014. So eHealth Africa does have an in-house team or group that provides services to all the departments. One of them is our informatics team, geographic information systems team, IT, software developers. So we were able to design a software that would support all our supply chain work. And the reason we did it internally is because we had to design something quite unique to the terrain and I would say the process that's adopted in Nigeria. So that was quite helpful. This software still is operation until now. It's used by us for executing our projects, but it's also used by government partners to execute their deliveries as well. So this was one of the tools that we developed and still active until date. And there are plans to probably use this tool on over the continent on some of the lab projects. Planfeld as well is a powerful workflow application tool tailored for public health, humanitarian, and pharmaceutical services. With Planfeld, administrators can seamlessly plan, monitor, and evaluate field activities. And again, the reason we did this, it's it's a huge country, and a lot of resources deployed to execute those projects. Planfeld allows you to do the proper planning, reduce time wastage, reduce resource wastage, reduce I would say sorry, increase efficiency, if I would put it in a better way. Another solution we developed was the data portal. So we gathered all the data that we've gathered together from us and different partners, put it into the data portal that is available to everyone. Anyone on the call can also just search up eHealth Africa data portal, and you can log in and you can run some reports on some of the data sets that are available. Biscuit is the blood information system for crisis intervention and management. So it revolutionizes the blood supply management in Nigeria. So it offers time tracking of blood inventory, streamlining and distribution, and ensuring data-driven decisions in the hospitals. So this is in summary the overview of what the organization does. And just to mention how we do it is we make sure any project we are involved in is an impact-driven project. So we always ask the question, what problem are we trying to solve, and what impact do we expect? We make sure that if we're accepting a project or designing a project that impact on people directly on the beneficiaries is something we can measure. Otherwise, we're just doing what everyone else is doing, and that's why we try to be different. And we try to operate in a different way because we operate more of a similar mentality to how the private sector operates and how tech companies operate. We all come from, myself and the founders all come from the tech background. So I have a background of communications engineering. One of our founders has a background of software engineering. So we come from quite diverse and different background, I would say, to the classic nonprofit sector. So that's why we have a completely different approach on how we execute our projects, and including the way we manage our hierarchy in the organization. So we try to give the approach of a very flat organogram, open door policy, and very, very, very minimal bureaucracy. So and mind you, keeping compliance at the top priority of everything, but not to make things over bureaucratic, because that has been a killer in a lot of industry, and particularly in the development sector. We see a lot of organizations that focus a lot on bureaucracy, focus on compliance, use huge percentages of their funding for overheads, which is not something we see as ideal. So currently our focus areas in terms of projects, our major projects are still on polio eradication, routine immunization, malaria eradication, and we're currently discussing some projects related to HIV and other diseases. So this has been a fight we've been on for 10 years on polio, and we continue to do that, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which funds most of our work on polio. Plus we work with definitely a lot of other partners and donors, like all the UN agencies, Gavi, USAID, and other organizations. So that's in summary an overview of eHealth Africa and what we do. And maybe I can just give a bit more on why we do this, is because we noticed everyone working in the development sector and in those zones and the very difficult, zone Nigeria and on the continent, we're all doing the same thing, just copying, just basically running the same projects over and over again with no one tracking impact and zero leverage almost on technology. So we noticed from our work, like, technology and data are the key to everything we do, and those recently in the last over the last 10 years. So using data for decision making was something new we brought into this development world, and was welcomed very well. And if I look at where we were 10 years ago and where we are now in terms of how things are done, it's a huge shift. All the emergency centers we do, if you're visiting any of the countries that we have emergency operation centers and you end up in one, you'll understand the impact those centers have by using the technology, just as simple as providing conducive work environments for the health officials and the government people and the emergency responders to be able to work, to give them access to communications, data, dashboards, and power and a working facility at least. If you've been over the continent and have been to any of these remote areas where some of these projects are being executed, you would probably understand how important that is, and how much impact that would provide to people that are in very rural and remote underserved communities. So we will continue doing what we're doing because we believe in the impact we have on the end users. So I think that's all from my side. I hope I stuck to the time.
Thank you. No, thank you for that. It's really, I mean, so impressive to see what you've done and what you've achieved in such a short period of time. And I mean, one's left listening to you and looking at the day, the detail that you've shared, that your vision as an organization is not just a statement of intent. It seems like a real powerful force that shapes every aspect of the organization. If I listen to your background as well, and I sense that commitment that I showed on my slide too. There's something that's much bigger than yourselves. You come out of technology and kind of different, engineering backgrounds, and yet here you are really advancing and driving health on the continent of Africa, making huge impact on children's lives, on people's lives. So I want to ask you in to share with the audience a little bit on your experience. You operate across, I think you said 19 countries. It's remote, it's sometimes difficult. And of course, you in an industry that is regulated as well, and where you have ministries and governments involved. How do you think that, your purpose, being very clear on the mission of eHealth Africa, share with us a little bit, how has that helped or hindered, but I think helped your stakeholder relations, getting, the doors open that needed to be open, getting the trust and legitimacy as an organization?
Thank you. I'll give you again a quick snapshot of how this quickly evolved. We started our first project from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2012. It was a part of the project, it was like a test for us to prove of what, and able to execute that and on time and high quality. We demonstrated impact, and we were hands-on. I think that started everything for us, because they noticed, like, we were technically hands-on. Myself, the founders were how to just do things and start spend just like that. So that was a start, and from there, started accumulating, because the donor noticed, like, you doing things in a different way. So let's try it in different areas. So from one project, then and those were polio focused, and then Ebola happened. We were just sitting down in our in Nigeria, and we got a call from the US Center for Disease Control. We've heard a lot out of nowhere, saying we heard a lot about you. We heard how fast you guys are, about how you have quick times, and you guys don't waste time. And literally, it was I remember very well, and they were like, "Can you go to Lagos today?" And we're like, we literally, just packed our bags and went not knowing what we had to do. So there, we were told what to do. We were very successful in Lagos in 2 weeks. To interrupt any further of Ebola there, and from there we were, we got another call back from the CDC saying, okay, now you proved what we've been hearing. Can you head to Liberia, Guinea? And again, that was the same thing. Just loaded our bags, and from there I think we were about 100 people at that operating in Nigeria, and then from there in a couple of 4 to 5 months, our work between the West African countries became 1,000, based on the because of the outbreak of Ebola, and I think that's how people started knowing, okay, these things done, we get them done. We're not at the beginning, people were like, oh, but yeah, Africa might be a bit expensive, their budgets are a bit higher. When we did it, everyone was like, no, there's a lot of value here. Yes, maybe they do charge certain rates, but you also it's done half the time others are doing them. So you look at value for money, it's well spent. So I'm sure how the development sector works, how much it takes some of the organizations to. So some organizations would take 2-3 years that we would do in 1 year.
Yeah.
So technically, we are cheaper, but you need to as a holistic approach, and this develop the trust. Where failed in any project, we've always been very forward and very honest partners and donors on what works, what does not work. We've identified problems, saying like, okay, we don't working, we need to change. So good at doing that, at riding along and taking the money and doing the work, but we come back with feedback saying we're paying for this, but it's not working. We and I think that's very, very, very important, because that rarely happens in this sector. A donor gives you millions of dollars to execute a project. You just do it for 3
Yeah.
you try to get again, but we always go back. It's not working. We're not happy about this. Like, but we have this solution. What do you think? And made the donor trust us and spread the word there that these guys get things done. So that was, I would say, our honesty, our focus on nation and impact have been had a huge role in developing that trust.
And I think listening to you, and I picked up earlier on, you spoke about the fact that, if I heard you correctly, you've also consistently been kind of identified or recognized as an employer of choice for your employees as well. So it's not just your external stakeholders, it's really also your internal stakeholders. So talk to me a little bit about your workforce and why it is you think they get up in the mornings and dress up and show up.
I mean, that's also been something we had in mind from the beginning. So from the facilities, if one day you come to Nigeria, our offices, you would understand the difference of our up and how we start from the offices. Everyone at a very conducive work environment. All the work tools they need are available. We have, I think, some of the best in the country in terms of tech, in terms of work and making everyone comfortable. But we also that we have some of the best benefit packages to our employees. I think we were one of the not only that introduced work from home from the get-go, not from COVID. We at a certain management level from inception, and then started down as we went. So for example, on management positions, typically get is work from home per year as part of their pre-COVID, all before COVID. With COVID happening, and the changes as well, we expanded more on that. We allowed a bit more flexibility in terms of the hybrid work arrangements. We provided also hubs for people to work. Nigeria is quite tricky when it comes to work. You can be given the chance to work, and you have to pay for power and internet because none of them exist. So people still prefer to to have work from, and we We
Yes.
created those hubs. Yeah. We focus a lot on our welfare for our employees, people to take their holidays because we believe they need to. So there was this for Nigeria, for example, if you don't take your holiday, you can get, and people would do that because they wanted the extra money. We came back saying like, no, this is not allowed. You have to take your time off because your mental health is very, very important. We know what it means, and we have to force this. And another push we're doing is the gender parity, which is really, it's part of our strategic goals set for long-term strategy goals that is set and tracked year to year. And, working with other organizations to see how, what suggestions or what methods to have more women work at eHealth Africa. And we provide to provide best packages for women for work for us from 6 months maternity leaves to other benefits as well, flexible work hours for working mothers, and I would say logistics support as well, because the insecurity, secure areas and stuff. So it's something hard. We're really pushing on. We would like to be one of the organizations that can come up and say one day, like, we're the first to have parity in Nigeria. So that's a focus area for us.
It's a big drive and a big objective. I was interested to see the way that you've, on your mission, which obviously focused on health to a large extent, but then the gender and the women investment side to it was quite interesting. Kind of doesn't look aligned, but maybe there is. How did that come about?
Sorry, you broke up a bit, but when you're asking question, I couldn't link it.
So I was asking a little bit about understanding where you've got the one stream on health, and then you have the stream, if I understood it correctly, on women investment, gender investment, which is a different kind of. So tell us a little bit about that.
So what we do, as a nonprofit, so because I think a lot of people also get confused what nonprofits or what they do. As a nonprofit, on our projects, you charge your management fees, you charge your whatever you call it, depending on the organization, call it management fee. When management fee at the end of the year, sometimes you come up with a surplus as a nonprofit, which means we have no shareholder, no dividends. That's the concept of a no profit. So there's no profit for you to share to any share to anyone. But technically, we come up with, if you're doing well, you have a surplus. And what we surplus, it gets donated to our impact, which has a mandate of investing in women-led business only. So we have been doing, I think, for 2 years. It's small investment. We believe getting a huge impact. Sometimes I think $50,000 investments in women-led business. But we also provide them with the support, technical support. We can provide them where needed, because they're very small businesses. So I think the EH Impact Venture website would show a lot of these investments that are being done, and we plan to expand that in the future. We're trying to attract external funding as well to the investment portfolio, because we believe in the empowerment. We believe in struggles are on the continent and Nigeria as well. It's much easier for you investment funds or loan if you're a man, not a woman, unfortunately. And it's still a very patriarchal and
Society.
we are trying to that impact. So most of our surplus that we foundation goes to the impact investment.
Steph, what you do is more than commendable. It is so critical, crucial for this continent and for our society. So really want to say thank you for that. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and please continue. Keep that up, and yeah, we really wish that and wish you absolutely just success on this journey forward, and in the way that you do it. And from, as I said, listening to you, really understanding how you are driven every day by your objectives, by making an impact, how you're measuring. And I think just the metrics and your statistics is already gives one such a lot of, energizing and rewarding to see the difference that you make. And I've got no doubt you're just going to go from strength to strength if you continue along this journey. So I'm going to wrap up our conversation a little bit with our team, but just to say thank you from my side that you were willing to join us for this conversation. We really wish you well, and we'll definitely be keeping our eye on eHealth Africa and its impact it makes on the continent of Africa for the benefit of all of us. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the last few minutes we've got left, just I said I would come back to the slide, just really bringing it practical, again, bringing it back home from, so what? How do we go forward from here? To really take time and really want to encourage you to take the time to sit down with the leadership of your organization, clearly understand, if you, when listening to Atef as well, they've got a fairly broad mission and purpose as well, but they want impact. He kept on using the word impact. They want to have impact, a positive impact. And that's kind of, I think, one of their key drivers in everything that they do. To make sure that when we know what that is, what our North Star is, what our reason for existence is, to align that with our values, with the goals, with the targets that we set. And everything then we do, every decision we make, every budget we approve, every structure we put in place, the culture of our organizations need to be aligned so we can get that consistency, that legitimacy, that who we say we are, and what we want to be known for is aligned with what our external stakeholders experience. Atef and eHealth Africa will not have the success if there is not trust amongst their funders, their donors, and the other stakeholders, that they are actually, who they are, and that they can be trusted to want to have that positive impact and make that difference. And then you also heard him a lot talking about the impact, the measurements, the numbers. He showed us quite a number of their achievements. So making sure that we can measure and report on the progress, as we proceed on our purpose journey. And report, communicate reporting, because that's also how we build trust at the end of the day, with our external and internal stakeholder group. And then it's not static. It's not a, here's the purpose, put it away in file 13 and let's get on. Life happens, the world changes around us. And so therefore we need to regularly reassess, review, and if necessary, renew our purpose so that we remain relevant to society. We remain relevant to our stakeholder grouping, to the legitimate needs and interests and expectations of our stakeholders. So I trust with that during the course of this year, with us talking about purpose, that we've been able to kind of get some of you, called it, across the line to also appreciate the fact that a well-defined purpose, guiding your strategic decisions, will also inspire employees. It will trust with stakeholders, and it will drive the long-term sustainability and success of our organizations. And it's for us, for those of you in the room with me, the leadership of organizations, to champion the importance of purpose in business so that we make sure that it's deeply embedded in every fabric, and within the fabric and every aspect and building block of our businesses. It is 1:00. I want to thank my team who supported me this year in bringing all of these different webinars to you, the speakers we had, again, to Atef and eHealth Africa, that we've also started a journey with, and we will definitely be working with them in years to come, because we also strongly believe in the purpose that they and the mission that they have set for themselves as well. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. Wishing you a wonderful festive season and a successful 2025, driven not only by your organizational purpose, but your own individual purposes as well. So thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.